And Mr. Joe sat down on the sidewalk, and right then and there he had a heart attack.
Right in the middle of it.
Sitting on the sidewalk, he starts to have a heart attack. He stands up, he lights a cigarette, he goes into the room, presents his mess about insurance, gets back in the car, drives home.
How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the UKnowAdamTsang podcast, where you get to know a little bit more about people, passions, and all things business. I, for whatever reason, didn't hit record earlier, so this is take two of this show. But with me is Mr. Win Lee, who is the youngest partner at Lee Hill & Johnston right here in Statesboro, Georgia. Right. Win, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Adam. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So before I realized that we weren't recording, we were talking about kind of like some of the history that our families have had together. My dad was very big in the restaurant industry, and he kind of reached out to the older Mr. Lee to kind of like ask for insurance. Yeah. And then you were saying that there was a funny story that your dad had about it, which what happened?
Where Mr. Charles, Adam's dad, called my father's cell phone, and the words were pretty simple, and it was, "Mr. John, insurance too high," and then he hung up the phone. And so that's kind of the place that insurance agents in nowadays.
To make matters a little bit better, let me assure you that is probably what I get when my dad calls me. So, that's kind of like the way stuff goes. But my dad's great. He's, been in Statesboro for many, many, many years, and, nothing but great things to say about the Lee Hill Johnston organization. So,
and your dad.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me a little bit about kind of what made you get into the industry and kind of like how you ended up here.
Yeah. So growing up, I always told myself that I wasn't going to do insurance.
Why?
That I was going to go a different direction than my dad went. Just the kind of the entitlement stuff kind of played a part, where it was a little bit of pride of, I don't want to do that because my father did that. I went into ministry in 2016, worked for Connection Church for 3 years, and then I was the discipleship coordinator at Guido Gardens in Metter for a year and a half, and then I went back to Connection Church, and then I spent a little bit of times overseas in Palestine, and while I was there, I kind of had this mission-oriented thought process of what I wanted to do, and it kind of led me back to being with my family. And then that kind of led me back into giving insurance another chance. And I got back involved, and they hired me. Didn't have much of an interview process, but they hired me. And I've been there 5 years now.
That's awesome. Congratulations on that. So, I guess walk me through a little bit, because I'm actually very familiar with this, because I myself also work in a family business, right? I came back from California to kind of like go into the restaurants. What for you, kind of like, number one, what kept you away from that side of things?
I think it was really, like I said, I think it's just a pride thing.
Yeah.
I think it's more of, hey, I want to do my own endeavors and start my own business, and I don't need your help.
Sure.
Type thing, and that's just young juvenile me, being 20-something year old and not knowing what I wanted to do really.
Yeah.
And you just kind of start. Sometimes you can get in that mindset of listening to what other people aren't really even thinking about you, but just seeing their thoughts in your mind type thing, and just worrying about what they're going to say. Like that everything been handed to you, or it's that kind of side. So I was against that for solely that reason, really.
Were you, when you were younger, were you kind of like helping around the business? Like,
no,
none of that.
I didn't understand insurance until
5 years ago.
5 years ago.
Got it.
I mean, it's a kind of like we were talking earlier, it's a very bland industry.
Sure.
We always say it's just paper until you need it.
Sure.
So we're solely selling paper until there's
something
a claim.
Does happen.
Yeah, until something happens, and then you need that piece of paper.
Sure. When you were out in kind of like these different areas, What was kind of like some of your favorite memories from being in ministry and all those?
Yeah, I think it's just meeting people at an honest place. I think that's kind of so whenever you meet somebody in a business relationship, they want to seem that they have it all put together because, right, that's your ideal client is someone that's not, their life's not falling apart, or they don't have all these struggles, or that they dang sure aren't admitting them to you whenever you first meet and you have that first conversation. But in ministry, in the situation that I was in, I was kind of meeting people at where they were.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to have more of a personal, deeper connection with them rather than a business relationship. And some of my business relationships have turned into those relationships where I do see into a deeper side of who people are and
Sure.
get to have those conversations with them. But most of them are pretty surface level, and are very business oriented, like they were supposed to be.
Sure.
But some God's developed a bigger relationship there. So I think that's the main thing, is that whenever I would meet someone, whether it was overseas and it was a Muslim in Palestine, or whether it was a Christian in Romania. I spent some time in Romania that lived off of cocoa beans and
That's
coffee.
crazy.
You met people kind of where they were,
Sure,
instead of them having to dress up for you.
And what initially kind of like pulled you into that? Like, what kind of like, why was ministry the path?
I have a pretty radical, I think, testimony of what God's done for me and where I've come from, and just the thoughts that I had, and then God rescued me from that, and then I have a passion for serving other people, and that's really the easiest, or not the easiest way, but it was the most accessible way for me to serve people, was to volunteer at my local church. I got an internship there at Connection, so that was just a simple pathway in. And the best part of it was my internship helped me graduate college, because it was 12 credit hours.
Oh, yeah?
From Georgia Southern's recreation degree.
Okay.
So I switched paths to graduate because I'd fallen behind a little bit.
Uh-huh.
And I needed to graduate. So this was offering 12 hours. So I went to Brandon Williams and I said, hey, I would like to be an intern for y'all, and it's going to help me complete school.
Got you. So that's how you actually finished off your
college.
Was that your last 12?
That was my last 12 hours. I was an intern at Connection, and then I started seminary.
Yeah. You mentioned something about kind of like the helping people or serving people, right? How frequently do you use that in your business today?
I think the reason and my purpose of being in the insurance industry is it is serving people. So it's serving people's businesses, it's serving people's financially, because if you have a claim and you can't financially recover that, that's the point of insurance. That's why insurance was a thing, because people don't have $300,000 to put their house back if it burns down. So in a way, it is serving people. When the worst case scenario happens, I'm there, and I do find purpose in that, and there is a reasoning for my job existing, because there has to be someone there to mitigate between a customer who's lost it all and an insurance company that's 1,000 miles away.
And you are that kind of like filling in that
middleman.
Got
That's
you.
right.
Got
so
you.
I'm the relationship to the customer and to the company, and the relationship from the company to the customer.
Love that. When you first initially got back, potentially there were some thoughts that you had of like, did I make the right decision?
Yeah.
Did you have that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%. Still, I mean, not still have it, but it always lingers. I mean, you always question your purpose. You always question, especially a job in the world that we live in, where everybody in the past 3 years has switched jobs. And there's so much. There's LinkedIn, there's the internet, there's so many different ways to find a career that's going to pay $500,000 a year and you work from home. There's all these incentives out there. So it's always there and it's always in your face. But I do have a purpose, and those thoughts they're never really tangible thoughts. They're always just like poking you in the side a little bit,
Yeah. For insurance, what about that industry has been the most rewarding?
I think kind of back to just being able to help people. I think that's the most rewarding part, and meeting new faces with new industries, and there's a lot of people in the insurance world that have to have insurance that can't get it. So they have to have somebody that can get it for them, and we fill in that role. And the one thing that we try to do at Lee Hill & Johnson is we try to help everybody. So no matter what the premium size, no matter how hard of an account it is, like a HVAC contractor might require us to do something for them every single day, and we might only get $100 a year off of that guy, but we're helping him every day.
That's right.
So we always try to help the little guy and the big guy with whatever they need. And that's kind of the purpose of us is that we are serving people where they're at and what they're doing, and enabling them to succeed in their own businesses by being there for them on the insurance side and giving them what they need. Because every bank, every mortgage lender, every contractor, every architect, every loan officer, every construction loan, they require people to show that they have insurance.
That's right.
So constantly, every day, we're sending these
files back and forth.
These COIs is what we call them, certificates of insurance. We're sending those all over the country.
Yeah, because there's like different groups that are demanding that.
Exactly, and everybody's working.
So let me ask you this, and this kind of like may go back to our guests that are listening in. As a business, how do I determine like what type of insurance I need, right? Like, how do I set that up so that that I am protected, if you will?
So my advice, and this is just my personal advice, is to find a trusted agent like me, wherever it's your hometown friend that got into insurance, but someone that is in the industry that's been there long enough to know what's going on to advise on that. But if it's a simple business, I would say the general liability is the biggest part of having a business. You need general liability because there is risk there where people are going to sue you. You're always in a position where something can happen, right? It's kind of like whatever the worst can happen will happen.
Sure.
And then two, if you owe money, the bank's going to require you to have insurance. So you have to have that covered, and you have to have your bank listed. And in order to get that policy right, you need someone to understand that policy for you and help it so that you understand it as well.
That's right.
Because the more the customer and the business understands it, the more that they don't take it for granted and just look at it as a sheet of paper that they have to pay every year. They look at it as, hey, I can lay my head down and sleep tonight because I know if my business burns up that, one, I have insurance, two, I have business income where they're going to pay me based on my loss sustained, where if I'm out of business for a month, I'm going to be able to recuperate off of this insurance policy on my lost wages and my lost income off of this. So it's basically keeping businesses afloat during a claim.
During the
worst,
So in this industry, you have these big names, State Farm, Allstate, I think Geico is another one. All these insurance companies. I guess what does Lee Hill Johnston do different than these other places?
Okay. Yeah, this is a big one because we're an independent insurance agency, and what that means is we obtain contracts with insurance companies that choose us and we choose them, and we have a relationship with them where we represent their paper. So that would be their name on the top of the paper with their insurance policy and their price on it.
Okay.
So we represent them, and I represent 11 standard companies on the home and auto side.
Okay.
State Farm's one.
Okay.
Just one company. Geico's just one company. Progressive's one company.
So you can sell
11 different products at one time.
Geico or Allstate or whatever.
I can sell some of them. Allstate, Progressive.
Okay.
We have in-house. Travelers, Auto Owners, Cincinnati, kind of your bigger name company, Hanover, those. And then on the commercial side, we have access to over 200 companies.
Oh, wow.
So we can basically access every company in the United States.
Wow.
Outside of your state farms and farm bureaus and your captive agents is what they are called, where they're selling one product, but an independent insurance agent is selling however many products he has in-house with that agency.
And what does that do for the consumer, like people that come to you?
It gives you a place where you don't have to move your insurance policy in order to, one, save money, and two, change your coverages. So if you grow outside of what this X company does and is standard doing, and you need to move to Y, you don't have to move offices, and you don't have to move agents, and you don't have to ask, or you don't have to go do it on your own and just totally pick up and move. That's where we come in and we say, okay, well, we have this company that is a niche market with this. So we're going to put you in this program, and you're in the best place you can possibly be. So we're all-in-one insurance agency.
What about rates? Are you able to do, I guess, access more competitive rates because you have multiple different vendors?
And they're always competing against each other. So if they want the business, they're going to compete each other. We have personal relationships with the underwriters where we can call and ask for rate increase or decreases, and they'll normally give them to us. So we're usually, I mean, I'm hitting about 85% on my hit ratio on if I get beat or not.
Yeah. Like meaning that you are offering an extremely competitive rate for the consumer.
Exactly.
Tell me a little bit. Do you know the history of the company?
Yeah, we were started around 1973. It was kind of over here across from the old Sonic.
Okay.
We were a real estate / insurance company, but we sold crop insurance and crop insurance, like, and a little agricultural insurance, and that's a whole nother. I mean, that's beast that's a beast right there. We no longer do that
because it's up and down, right?
Because it's federally rated, and there's always claims.
Okay.
So there's claims to protect the farmers, and it's federally rated. So if me and you are both agents, we're selling the same product.
Got you.
So then the market just gets saturated, kind of like the real estate thing we see around here.
Sure.
But what we're saying?
We were talking about the start of the company.
Start of the company, yep. So it was started by Joe Johnston, and he loved real estate.
Yeah.
So he was a real estate agent and was very, very successful at it, but he wanted the insurance because it provided good income for the real estate agents basically to float around on.
Gotcha.
So he gets tired of the insurance side of it, and he hires my dad and Pratt Hill. Okay, so long story short is basically 2 years later, they end up buying him out. My dad's 24.
Oh, wow.
So now my dad's responsible for an insurance agency.
Why did he sell? Do you know?
He sold just to focus on the real estate. Yep. So he basically blessed my dad and Pratt with this business. And,
I love that.
And basically gifted it to him.
Really?
They paid it off in about 4 years, and they were off to the races. 1984 was the existence of Lee Hill and Johnston Inc.
Okay.
So 1970 something, it was Johnston Insurance Agency.
And then
it changed to Lee Hill and Johnston.
They kept his name in there.
Yeah, still is. Just his legacy, man. He was a great, great dude.
Yeah.
There's stories about him everywhere. He's kind of like the Urt Russell of the business world of Statesboro. I mean, he's a legend.
What are some of the stories? Some of your favorites.
So here's the good one that I have is, and I don't know how much I could share about it, but the best one that I've heard is that him and Pratt and my dad were going to see a client in Macon, and this was back when everybody smoked cigarettes, you know.
Sure.
And Snookies used to be filled with cigarettes and Archibalds. I remember walking into Archibalds as a kid, and you could barely see your table because there was so much cigarette smoke in there. So they were going to see this big client, and they were going to try to write his insurance. Big guy in Macon. I can't remember exactly what he did. And they were walking from the truck to the office, and Mr. Joe sat down on the sidewalk, and right then and there he had a heart attack. Right
in the middle of it.
Sitting on the sidewalk, he starts to have a heart attack. He stands up, he lights a cigarette, he goes into the room, presents his mess about insurance, gets back in the car, drives home.
That is crazy.
But just shows you like the toughness and the swagger that he had about him. He was a big guy, had these big old hands. I can always remember him riding horses, and he'd always like be off to the side smoking a cigar with a hat on. And he just loved being outside, loved bird dogs, loved horses. He was just a good old Bullitt County guy.
Love that.
And then a staple of who we are as an insurance agency too, because he was very personable to everybody in town. Everybody loved him. Everybody knew his name. And that's who we try to be, even though our town's growing so much and we have so much of an influx of franchises coming in.
I love the fact that it's still has that small town feel, because I think a lot of times businesses lose touch of that.
That's right.
All they see is like, what's on the bottom line, right? Like, how is that relationship going to impact me, so forth and so on. But having that, I guess, customer service, and this actually came up earlier in another podcast. We were talking about kind of like Southern hospitality, if you will. It's very important to the culture that's here, and it's not like this everywhere else, right?
Exactly.
Like there's a lot of other places that don't have that. Even you mentioning that in Statesboro, when you're driving around and you make eye contact with another car,
you gotta wave at them.
It's like especially in your neighborhood, like if you don't do that, like who does this guy think he is?
That's right.
But that's something that's special about this area. You mentioned a little bit about kind of like being a very young partner inside of this firm, and I guess you're kind of like following in the footsteps of your father to a certain extent. What type of kind of like different ideas do you hope to bring to the table of an industry that maybe has been here for quite some time? Right?
I think it's less. A lot of people try to do new things and try to change everything. It's kind of one of those, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Yeah. But it's also one of those things where if it works, don't take advantage of it. To appreciate it, to keep our mindset of customer service first. I think that's the biggest thing that we try to do is as long as we can help people, we serve a place here. Yeah. And as long as you can help people, you serve a place here. But Correct. As soon as we stop helping people, as soon as we start putting ourselves above our customers, we're in a bad spot. Yeah. And that's the place that I hope we never get to, and I don't believe we will ever get to because of the people that I work with. Our customers come first, and that's just the bottom line of it. We did whatever we had to do to save a customer, save an account. We never want to lose. We want to win everything that we try to do. So I think that's kind of just our pitch to whoever's listening to it is that we want your business and we want to treat you right. When there's a lot of people out there that don't know your name and you're just a number two. Yeah. But with us, your name, and you have somebody to call and talk to at all times of the day. That's right.
Do you have any stories of kind of situations that you have kind of like personally experienced in this industry?
Yeah, and a lot of this side goes to our companies that we represent, because the companies are the ones with the checkbook. Like we never we don't pay claims. That's not our job. It's the job of the company. So really, we have a couple different companies. And one Cincinnati insurance company, and we had a nursing home / retirement facility here catch on fire. Wow. And there, you can imagine the mess with that, because with a fire comes a sprinkler system. Yeah. And once that sprinkler, no matter where the fire is, the sprinkler is going to go off over the building. So that makes a mess, and you deal with carpet and sprinklers, and I think it was in December. So it wasn't hot and muggy. It was this past year. Yeah. It wasn't hot and muggy, but it's still Statesboro weather where there's humidity, So there's the water got everywhere. It was standing water on the carpet. This is in the middle of the night as well. And Cincinnati Insurance Company came in. They paid for everything. They paid for all repairs, paid for all actual loss sustained on the business income, meaning if they had to move patients out of there, they would pay basically per bed X, whatever it costs to keep that patient in the bed. But they brought in a mobile washer and dryer unit on a trailer. They brought in a mobile kitchen. They brought in a mobile bathroom, and they provided new mattresses. Wow. And they lost a lot of money on that. Sure. I think they ended up paying out like $700,000 or something like that. And but that customer of ours will never want to move their insurance from Cincinnati. Of course. So that's kind of just the gist of what we do. I had a one this year where a tree fell on top of them as they were operating the building. A tree fell on top during the tornado that came through over by the prison. Sure. Tree fell. The Cincinnati Insurance Company had it done and completed with a check that was more than enough within 2 weeks. Yeah. So it's really just the companies that we represent are good people, like we try to be good people.
I love
and
that.
they try to treat our customers fair, just like we try to represent our customers fairly.
I know from the position that you sit, you actually see kind of like all the bad, right?
Yeah.
All the situations
Yeah.
that arise. Has that changed your I guess level of risk that you're willing to take?
Yeah.
Has it?
Yeah. I mean, so there's a whole underwriting portion of our jobs, basically, where like So Yummy, they'll go in and underwrite So Yummy, and they'll give you a price based off what they underwrite.
For those that don't know, So Yummy is one of the restaurants that
That's right, with Cincinnati
operate.
Insurance
Yep.
Company. Shout out Cincinnati.
Shout out So Yummy. Shout out Paul Newman. He was
Shout
here
out
earlier.
Paul Newman, Statesboro Real Estate, PMG, Voice of Georgia Southern. Every billboard in town, the most familiar face in Statesboro. Shout out to Paul Newman.
Hey.
Who doesn't have time to listen to this because he's so busy selling real estate. Back to the claim side, I have to personally also underwrite because, one, you don't want to be with somebody that's going to take advantage of the insurance company and not pay.
Sure.
So a lot of people will get a contract. They'll say, I need a GL policy, and then they'll take that GL policy. They'll send out one certificate of evidence. They'll say that they have insurance, and then they won't pay, and then they no longer have insurance, and they're living off of that certificate of insurance. So we have to also underwrite our clients of saying, this is a good account, because if we keep bringing bad accounts to the insurance companies, they're going to get mad at us
Sure.
and cancel our contract.
Sure.
So we try to be what we want to represent.
Sure.
You know, I try to find my clients by people that I respect, people that I want to do business with, not people looking for minimum limits on their automobile insurance.
Sure.
Or trying to save money every month on their auto insurance.
That's not your client.
That's not who I want to work with. I want to work with people that want to be covered.
Yeah.
And see the need for insurance, and the litigious way that we live in today, where every commercial is a Mike Hostelo or Brown and Brown.
Yeah.
They're saying one call, that's all. So we it's only a matter of time before your insurance is used, whether that's your automobile insurance, homeowners insurance, or your business insurance. One day you're going to use it.
Sure.
And you're going to need a good policy with a good agent and a good company there.
Yeah. Well, for you, you know, we mentioned this earlier a little bit, and we were talking about kind of like risk, like the risk that you're willing to take on. So, have you adjusted kind of like your lifestyle because you've kind of like seen on the flip side all these things that could potentially occur?
Yes, I'm terrified to get in a wreck.
Are you?
Terrified, because I don't want someone calling Brown and Brown or
Who's Brown?
Injury attorney.
Oh, yeah.
Where they're saying my neck, my back, and they're crawling out of the car, and then an ambulance comes, and I'm responsible for, my insurance company is now on the hook for whatever my limits are, and they're going to go for max limits because they're going to sue against my insurance company.
Sure.
So that's kind of and then everybody else, once that happens, and then one little wreck where the person's not even injured, and they get paid $250,000 from my insurance company, well, now you get your rate increase next year, and you say, well, I didn't have a claim. Well, in reality, I was paying $1,800 a year on my automobile insurance, and I just cost them $250,000.
Correct.
So we live in this world where our companies and the auto companies, their rates are always going up because they're always losing money.
Sure.
So if they really wanted to get their money back, we'd all be paying about $5,000 per car.
Wow.
Which hopefully we never get to that point.
I hope not. Hope
not.
Yeah. You know, as a insurance agent, there are a lot of questions that, because insurance is this kind of like mysterious thing, right? Like that we were talking about before, where you know you need a COI just to get kind of like get things moving. But after that, you don't know that you need it until you do need it. And I think to a certain extent, maybe some people take advantage. There's a lot of companies that potentially are out there taking advantage of that. How does someone protect themselves from being taken advantage of?
Make sure whoever you're working with does have insurance. So you get that COI, and if the job's longer than 3 or 4 months, you might want to check back in on that, or you might want to request another one, or you just might not want to do business with somebody that doesn't have insurance.
Sure.
So that's the important side of it, because if they don't have insurance, then who becomes liable?
Yeah.
The person that hired them.
That's right. That's right.
So somebody's going to pay for it. Some insurance company's going to pay for it, and you'd rather it be theirs than yours.
Makes sense. Makes sense. What is in the future for the business?
I see some growth. I see a lot of opportunity around this area, but I also see us just maintaining true to who we are, and that's that we employ around 30 people. We have 22 girls in our office that are customer service reps. We have 6 agents right now, and we are looking to grow. We're looking to make new relationships. We're looking to partner with new businesses. We're looking to partner with new nonprofits around here that we can always help. We're looking to get more involved in the community. We're looking to make Statesboro a better place, which we've been here for the whole ride.
Yeah.
So we're still going to be here. We're still going to be on Savannah Avenue. It's still going to be good.
Yeah.
We're still going to represent our clients. We're still going to do our jobs as good as we can.
I love that. How do people get in touch with you?
You can hit me up on Instagram or Facebook, or you can call me. I've got business cards. Our office is Lee Hill and Johnston at 212 Savannah Avenue. You can look at our website and get my number off of there. I would say it out loud, but we don't want all y'all calling me at one time.
Hey.
But you can.
What's the website?
LHJINS.com.
Okay.
So we're on there. You can call us. The girls know how to get a hold of me. So
yeah,
you're only one call away from getting involved and us giving you a risk analysis. And the main thing that I like to do is look at people's current policies and either say, hey, you're good where you are, or hey, you need to change this ASAP.
Yeah.
So if you want us to give a free look, we'd love to do that.
Awesome. Win, thank you so much for spending some time with us. I appreciate your time, and as usual, it was a blast.
Yeah, Adam, you're awesome. I appreciate everything.
Appreciate it.